Welcome to The Explainer. Let's get right into it. We are looking at a really critical moment for the markets heading into March 2026. After the week we just had, it feels like the whole AI trade is finally showing some serious cracks. So the big question is, what comes next?
All right, let's really dive into this. Right now, the market feels like it's being pulled in a million different directions. It's this huge tug of war, right? On one side, you've got the incredible promise of all this new technology, but on the other, you've got the hard realities of economics and what's happening geopolitically around the world.
So if we want to really get a grip on this tension, we can pretty much boil it down to four huge stories that are all happening right now. We've got a major power struggle that just completely changed the game in AI. Then there's a new geopolitical shock hitting the energy markets. On top of that, we might be at a real tipping point for housing. And as if that's not enough, we're seeing a historic leadership change at one of the most famous companies on the planet.
Okay, so let's tackle the biggest story first, which has to be the AI sector. The entire landscape was basically redrawn in just a few days. It really felt like this was the week where all that incredible hype finally slammed into a brick wall of reality.
And it all kicked off with this one number, $50 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. To give you some perspective, that is the insane size of Amazon's brand new investment in OpenAI. We're talking about one of the biggest single AI deals we have ever seen, period.
Yeah, and look, this isn't just some friendly partnership. This is a declaration of war. It completely reshuffles the deck. For what feels like forever, Microsoft has been the partner for OpenAI, right? Almost exclusive. Well, Amazon just walked in and threw down a direct challenge to that dominance. The whole AI game just got shaken up big time.
So at the exact same time, one giant is making this huge power play, the market's darling, its AI bellwether, NVIDIA. Well, they hit a completely different kind of wall. The company that could literally do no wrong suddenly looked vulnerable.
And this is where things get really weird. It's a total paradox. NVIDIA comes out, delivers a monster quarter, raises its guidance for the future. Everything you could possibly want to hear. And what happens? The stock drops. It was just a brutal, classic case of sell the news.
So what does this really tell us? It says the company, NVIDIA itself, is doing great. They're firing on all cylinders. The problem is the stock price. It's priced for absolute perfection, a level that's just, well, it's almost impossible to hit every single quarter. And that could be a huge sign that we're seeing a bigger valuation reset, a moment where even mind-blowing growth isn't good enough for Wall Street anymore.
Okay, so with all this chaos in AI, what does it mean for the rest of the market? Let's zoom out a bit and look at the technicals, because honestly, there's a really fascinating story playing out right under the surface.
What we're seeing here is basically a tale of two markets. You've got the huge mega-cap tech stocks, the ones that are always in the headlines, and they're actually dragging the big indexes down below a really important technical level. But, and this is the interesting part, if you look at the market a different way, where every company gets an equal vote, not just the giants, well, the rest of the market is actually doing great. It's super strong, hanging out near all-time highs.
So the key takeaway here is that the market is definitely fragile, but it's not totally broken. You can almost think of it like a pyramid. All the news, all the panic is focused on these tiny cracks appearing right at the very tip top, the biggest tech names. But the base of that pyramid, it's way broader and frankly a lot more solid than the headlines would have you believe. It really shows that the weakness is packed into just a handful of companies.
All right, so moving on from AI and big tech for a second, there are three other big stories kind of bubbling under the surface. And any one of these could suddenly explode and become the main thing everyone's talking about.
So what are they? First up, energy risk. You've got a U.S. strike on Iran, which puts the Strait of Hormuz at risk. That's a huge choke point for global oil, so that's a big deal. Second, the housing market. Zillow's data is hinting that we could be hitting a real inflection point there, which would be huge for the whole economy. And finally, number three, a new era is dawning at Berkshire Hathaway. Greg Abel just released his first shareholder letter as CEO. That's a major moment in business history.
Okay, so that's a lot to process. The real question is, what do you do with all this? How does this translate into a watch list for the week? What should we actually be keeping our eyes on?
Here's what I'm watching. First, NVIDIA. Do people buy this dip, or is this the start of something worse? Second, Amazon. How is the market going to price in this monster OpenAI deal? Then, you've got to watch the energy stocks daily for any signs of trouble over there. Keep an eye on the housing sector, home builders, lenders, all of it. And finally, Berkshire Hathaway. Does it become that flight to quality stock that nervous investors pile into?
So if you put it all together, the key risk this week is this perfect storm, really.
You've got a market that's technically weak, trading below its 50-day moving average. That's a big red flag for traders. You combine that with all the geopolitical heat and these new fears about the AI trade falling apart, and it all just screams, be careful. It really calls for more caution.
And that really leaves us with one last and maybe the most important question you need to ask yourself heading into the week. With the market looking this fragile, are your stop losses tight enough? Because in this kind of environment, risk management is everything. Thanks for watching.